Fellow Toastmasters and welcome guests, please welcome your dynamic Division D Director, Joe Bresler.
Hey, thank you, Aubrey. Thank you. And welcome. Tonight, we welcome to our stage right here some of the best speakers from Toastmasters clubs in downtown and Western San Francisco as they compete for the Division D contest trophy. The winner will go on to see how they do at the next level, which is the district level contest, and they may make it all the way up to the final contest to be held, international contest to be held in Paris, France in August. So we are looking forward to all these folks having a great time tonight and doing their best. For those of you who are not familiar with Toastmasters or Division D, Toastmasters is a worldwide organization dedicated to providing a supportive environment for members to practice and develop their communication and leadership skills. Division D, more specifically, is the division that is in downtown San Francisco, and it goes all the way out from Market Street all the way to the Western Addition out in the Sunset District, Outer Sunset. I'm Joe Bresler, as you heard from our illustrious Sergeant-at-Arms, Aubrey. I'm the Toastmasters Division D Director this year in San Francisco, and I'd like to welcome you to tonight's contest for 2020. Yay! I'm your overall host tonight and the event producer for this division contest. I would like to thank and acknowledge all the people who made it possible. But first, I'm going to focus primarily on our Division D leadership team. First off, I'd like to thank Adal Padilla, who is our contest chair this evening. Also, Mary Repetto, who contributed quite greatly. You'll see a lot of her slides and graphics that she's created for tonight. Our other area directors, Janet Sotheby, Geneva Dinwiddie, Greg Athos, and Xander Garovi. Okay, as we get started, I'd like to also introduce you to our functionaries, who you will see at different times tonight during the contest. Aubrey Carrier, you heard her voice earlier. She's our Sergeant-at-Arms. You've met our contest chair, Adalberto. In a moment, you will meet our Toastmaster, Noemi Gonzalez. And also, you will be hearing Tyler Brown at various times during the speech. Further, we've got Dimitri Feldman as our chief judge. And we've got the ballot counters, Lily and Fim. And timers, Greg, Mare, and Greg. So without any further delay, I am going to turn it right back over to our Sergeant-at-Arms, Aubrey Carrier, to kick us all off. Thank you so much, Aubrey.
Fellow Toastmasters and honored guests, welcome to the Division D Evaluation and International Speech Contests for 2020. In order to make a fantastic experience for all attendees and to ensure a fair environment for all contestants, please abide by the following logistics. This event is not being recorded, and we ask that you do not record speeches without the prior permission of the contest chair. However, you can always record with the supercomputer inside your head. Please ensure that your microphone is muted at all times and your video turned off, except during specific times indicated by the Toastmaster or tech chair. Just as with any online meeting or event, it's easy to become distracted. If you need to step away from your computer briefly, please do so between the speeches instead of during a speech so that contestants can have the audience's full attention. If you have a speaking role during the contest, please take the time now to silence any cell phone or other electronic device that might ring, sing, beep, buzz, or otherwise make a distracting noise during the contest proceedings. Restrooms, you know where they are. Shouldn't be any problems there. With that, please welcome your illustrious contest chair and your Area D4 Director, Adalberto Padilla.
Thank you, Aubrey, and welcome contestants, fellow Toastmasters, part of our Toastmasters educational program. They provide an opportunity for our Toastmasters to gain a speaking experience, as well as an opportunity for other Toastmasters and guests to learn by observing proficient speakers. Today's evaluation and international speech contest winners will progress to the District 4 contest, which will take place on Saturday, May 30th via Zoom. If a division contest winner is unable to participate in the next contest level, the highest place available contestant will advance. Please check the d4tm.org homepage for information on how to register. But before we begin, I'd like to turn the stage over to our current District Director, Kitsi Aviles, who will recognize our dignitaries in attendance.
Thank you, Adalberto, and welcome everyone to the Division D contest. I'm going to now introduce our dignitaries, our district leadership team who help us run this district and help support all of you. We will begin with our current Pro and Quality Director and candidate for District Director, Kalidas Churulil. Our Club Growth Director, candidate for Pro and Quality Director, Timothy Carlisle. Our immediate past District Director, Stephanie Chow. Our Logistics Manager and past District Governor, Tony DeLeon. Our District Parliamentarian and past District Director, Catherine Pratt. Our Division B Director, Mike Fidel. Our Division C Director, Elliot Mao. Our Division D Director and candidate for Public Relations Manager, Joe Bressler. Our Division E Director, Annie He. Our Area E3 Director and Tech Chair today, Tyler Brown. Our Area B6 Director and candidate for Club Growth Director, Jennifer Perry-Ruzick. Our Area C6 Director, Rashawn Maureen. Our Area D1 Director, Janet Sotheby. Area D2 Director, Geneva Dinwiddie. Our Area D3 Director and candidate for Division D Director, Greg Athis. Our Area D4 Director and candidate for Division D Director, Adalberto Padilla. Our Area D6 Director and candidate for Division A Director, Mayor Repetto. Area E5 Director, Addie Schnerl. Candidate for Club Growth Director, Karsten Mensk. Past District Director, Noemi Gonzalez, our Toastmaster today. Past District Director and our Sergeant at Arms today, Aubrey Carrier. At this time, if we could please show the candidate slides. Can you go back to the previous slide? All right, typically at division contests, we have a candidates corner, but we're virtual. So we have an online candidates corner, which you can find at d4tm.org/candidates. You are seeing on your screen right now our top 4 candidates for district leadership for 2020-2021. And in the next slide, our division director candidates for 2021. Again, go to d4tm.org/candidates to view their online candidate corner, where you can see their headshots, biographical information, candidate statement, and coming soon, video showcase. Thank you so much, and join us on May 16th if you are a vice president or president of your club to vote for our district leadership and other important district business. Thank you so much, and at this time, I'll hand it back to our Toastmaster for today, Adalberto.
Fully online this year, we have introduced a new role named our Technology Chair, who will ensure that all contestants and functionaries' technical needs are handled in a consistent fashion throughout the contest. Please let me introduce our Technology Chair, Tyler Brown.
Thank you, Adele. My role as technology chair is to manage the Zoom platform in the background. Everyone is muted, and I will unmute the speakers as needed. If there are any technical issues, please use the online chat in Zoom to message me via private message. For all others, the chat feature is reserved to answer functionary questions and to give instructions if needed. Please avoid using chat for general questions or comments. Speakers, we will conduct a mic check before you start your speech to ensure that we can hear and see you. This is also a time to ensure that your screen is on gallery view so that you can see the timer. We will not start timing until you've confirmed that you can see the timer and we can hear you. Timers, reminder, you will start timing after the mic check. Please help me welcome our Toastmaster, Noemi Gonzalez.
Thank you, Tyler. Welcome, everyone. I will begin with an overview of the evaluation contest procedures for the benefit of our guests and newer members. The purpose of the evaluation is to motivate the speaker to continually improve by providing reinforcement for their strengths and gently offering useful advice to them. The test speaker will start the contest with a 5 to 7 minute speech. The contestants will each present a 2 to 3 minute evaluation of the speech, and then the judges will vote. During the test speech, contestants will take notes on a blank sheet of paper, and upon completion of the speech, all the contestants will go to a breakout room within this Zoom meeting where they will have 5 minutes to complete their evaluation. The contestants will leave the breakout room and return to the main meeting one at a time at the direction of the tech chair, Tyler. There will be 1 minute of silence after each contestant for the judges to mark their ballots. After the final contestant, I will ask for silence until the judges are finished ranking the contestants and the ballot counters and chief judge have collected all the ballots. The contestants have agreed upon the following speaking area in front of the computers from the waist up. More or less like that. To eliminate any perception of bias, I will introduce each contestant in the same way. Contestant number, name, and name again. The speaking order has already been chosen at random, and I will announce that order now. Pens ready? All right. Contestant number 1, Joe Gallagher. Once again, contestant number 1, Joe Gallagher. Contestant number 2, Stephanie Yang. Contestant number 2, Stephanie Yang. Contestant number 3, Dennis Chase. Contestant number 3, Dennis Chase. Contestant number 4, Cindy Mata Stewart. Contestant number 4, Cindy Mata Stewart. And contestant number 5, Janet Sun. Contestant number 5, Janet Sun. I will now introduce our Chief Judge, Dimitri Feldman, so that he can review some of the contest rules.
Hello, fellow Toastmasters. Thank you, Noemi. It has been confirmed that all contestants are eligible to compete. The subject of evaluation contest speeches shall be limited to oral evaluation of the test speaker's speech. The time for evaluation speech is 2 to 3 minutes with 30 seconds grace period. A contestant will be disqualified if the speech is less than 1 minute 30 seconds or more than 3 minutes 30 seconds. The timing signals are visible from the computer and will be activated as follows. Tech chair, please show the timer's video feed so the contestants can see them. Can you see that? Okay. So the lights will indicate timing as follows: green at 2 minutes, yellow at 2 minutes 30 seconds, red at 3 minutes. Each signal will appear until the next one. The red signal will be displayed until the contestant finishes speaking. No notice will be given if a contestant speaks past the grace period. Timing will begin with the contestant's first definitive verbal or non-verbal communication with the audience or with the camera. This usually will be the first word uttered by contestants, but it would include any other form of communications. We can get very creative in front of the camera. So in the event of technical failure of the signal or timing equipment, a speaker is allowed 30 seconds extra overtime before being disqualified. Prior to announcing results, the chair will announce if a time disqualifications occurred, but not name the contestants involved in time disqualification. Judges have been instructed not to consider time in their ranking of the contestants. There are 7 judges and a secret judge, tie-breaking judge known only to me. Once the results have been announced, all decisions are final. The judges, timers, and ballot counters have all been briefed and are all qualified to fulfill their roles. Back to you, Noemi.
Thank you, Dimitri. Well, are we all ready to start this evaluation contest? I am. I'll now welcome our test speaker, Jim Lamaskis. The suit, Jim Lamaskis. Before we get started, Jim, can you speak just to make sure that we can hear you clearly?
Yes, this is my test voice. Can you hear me clearly? And can you see me well on the screen?
We can see you. The sound was a little bit choppy. Will you try speaking again?
Okay, so this is my test voice. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes. And let me reintroduce you. Jim Lamaskis, the suit, Jim Lamaskis.
Superman wears a cape. Iron Man, well, he was clothed in armor. And the average man, mainly myself, I wear a suit. In fact, in the business world, they refer to this as the power suit. But is there really any power that comes from putting on a suit? Contest chair, Toastmasters, fellow important people. A fashion writer once noted that the reason a man will wear a suit is very similar to the reason that a woman will put on makeup. We perceive it enhances our appearance. In fact, I don't believe I look quite as skinny when I have my jacket on. Don't you think? But somehow I believe there is more value that comes from wearing a suit than merely masking one's perceived flaws. In fact, I can name 2 situations where I wore a suit and a meaningful outcome resulted from it. And I want to share both of those situations with you here tonight. The first being when I volunteered to be a mentor for an educational program for high-risk young adults. And by high risk, I mean they either had a prison record, were now out on probation, had a background in drug and alcohol abuse, even homelessness, or were former gang members. And the goal of the program was to see them through to earn a high school diploma because they were all high school dropouts. And from that point on, they were hoping that they would go on to college or onto a meaningful career. And I was very excited to volunteer for a program like this. So I shared with all of my friends about the volunteer work I was really setting myself up to do. And each of my friends, to a person, criticized that decision. They said things like, you know what? They can't relate to you. You're too old. In fact, you don't have a background of prison, drug or alcohol abuse. You don't know what it's like to be homeless. This will be a waste not only of your time, but their time as well. But you know, somehow I never got the memo that said that you have to come from a sorted background in order to care. And caring is what's most important in helping young people overcome obstacles. So the day came when I was to be introduced to my mentee. The director of the program informed me I was being assigned to work with their worst case. He had many of the maladies and problems that I mentioned earlier that would put someone into this program. And he was on probation within the program for certain disruptions and had told that one more violation of rules, he'd be kicked out. And he had 7 months to go till graduation. But I was still excited to meet him, and I dressed up for the occasion. And during the introduction, it really would have been a non-starter even for the Dr. Phil show. And when he walked in the room, and we'll call his name Tom, not his real name, his arms were crossed in front of him, his head was down, his eyes were pointed at the floor, and he was shuffling his feet, and he plopped down into a chair, never looking up to make eye contact with me. Even when I reached out to introduce myself, and any question or comment I had, I was only received with a shrugging of the shoulders or a trite comment like, whatever, man. And he was fixated the entire meeting on this very large scab on his forearm. And it was at least the size of a $50 or even larger. And systematically, he started ripping pieces of it off in front of me and making this pile on a table right in front of my face. And the sight of this was actually turning my stomach and making me sick. And I was starting to believe maybe my friends were correct. Maybe someone like this can't relate to me. Perhaps I really was wasting his time and my own. However, when it came to the end of the meeting, I said to Tom, Tom, you know, it's time for me to go. And I have one more thing to tell you before I leave. I'll be coming back over the next 7 months to meet with you weekly. But I don't know if you noticed today, Tom, but I wore a suit. You know, I don't typically dress in a suit. In fact, I only wear a suit when I know I'm going to meet important people. And I know I was going to meet you here today, Tom. Therefore, I wore a suit. And Tom looks up at me, makes eye contact, looks down at how he's dressed, and says, oh man, if I'd have known that you were coming today, I got a long sleeve button down shirt I could have worn. And seeing the little pile he left on the table, I was thinking, oh, I wish he would have wore a long sleeve shirt today too. However, we connected at that moment. And over the next 7 months, it was 3 steps forward, 2 steps back. It was a lot of hard work, and there were disappointments along the way. And now I have an inkling of how a parent must feel in their heart when they have a wayward child to deal with. But good news was, in the end, we got him to graduation. And somehow I had the belief that during that introduction, had I not wore a suit, the connection likely never would have been made, and we likely would have had a different outcome in the end. So in conclusion, actually, I just lied. There is no conclusion to this presentation, only an introduction. You see, I don't know how many of you noticed tonight, but I had told you that there was 2 times that there were meaningful outcomes to me wearing a suit. And that second one being here, meeting all of you virtually. You see, I wore a suit tonight. I don't normally wear a suit. In fact, I only wear a suit when I know I'm going to meet important people. And I knew I was going to meet every one of you here virtually. Toastmasters. You see, Toastmasters are people who don't merely believe just in self-improvement, but they believe in helping others improve as well. Evidenced by your participation in your clubs and even in this contest tonight. And people who volunteer to help other people improve, those are my heroes. And any chance I have to meet one of my heroes, I will always dress up. And therefore tonight, I wore a suit. Contest chair.
Thank you, Jim. If you will stay on, I will be talking to you in a few seconds. For now, I'm going to ask our Sergeant at Arms, Aubrey Carrier, and all the evaluation contestants to please go to the breakout session, to the breakout room to complete your notes. We will wait until you all have left the meeting and the tech chair has confirmed that you're all in the breakout room. Tyler, will you keep us updated as to that process and let us know when everyone has left?
Yes, I will. Everybody, please click on the Join Breakout button at the bottom of your screen, and that should take you all to the room. Thank you.
I see a question from one of the contestants about joining the breakout room. Does anyone else need help?
Breakout rooms are open. Everybody should have received an invitation. I can confirm that the contestants are in the breakout room.
Awesome. Thank you, Tyler. Jim, are you still there? Will you turn your camera on and your microphone back on? Jim?
I'm disabled.
No, Jim Lamascus, our test speaker, if you could please turn your camera and your speaker back on. Did we lose Jim? Let me double check.
We still have him, but there appear to be technical issues. Please hold on a minute.
All right. There you are.
Yeah, I don't know. I got a note that says, please go to the breakout room. So,
Oh, yeah, some of us got it. We apologize for that. I think you may have been roped in with the contestants. But no, we want you to stay here. First, allow me to say what a pleasure it was to listen to your speech today, to listen to your message. And we would like to get to know a little bit more about you. Will you please share with us what club or clubs you belong to and how long you've been a Toastmaster?
yes, so I belong to the Oracle Direct Toastmasters Club at our corporate in Redwood Shores. And I've been part of that club for nearly 5 years. Prior to that, I was part of different clubs. Mercury News, when I worked there, we had a club there for a time. AAA Insurance, when I worked there, I was part of their Toastmaster clubs. And yeah, it's been a good part of my adult life here. So.
How long have you been a Toastmaster?
Well, I don't know how it's been off and on between those different careers and the different clubs. So probably cumulatively, probably at least 10 years.
Oh, that's really awesome. What would you say has been the highlight of being a Toastmaster for 10 years and having tried different clubs?
Yeah, the highlight to me was, at the Oracle Club, we had a college hire program. And it really intrigued me that a lot of the young college graduates were very interested in Toastmasters. And I did what I could with our team to recruit them. And at one point, we were averaging 60 to 65 attendees at each meeting. People were actually sitting on the floor. And the average age of our club was 24. And so that was just the energy, seeing people, young people like that step into a club and make the most of it. That was really an exciting highlight for me.
And it sounds to me that you really have embraced the role of a mentor. You did not mention that word earlier, but that's what came to mind as I heard you speak. Let me ask you, talking about your speech, I thought it was really interesting because throughout my professional life, I've heard a lot about the importance of how you dress, right? How you come across based on how you dress. And the suit has been a symbol of professionalism for so many decades. And of course, you know, things change with culture and with times. What would you say to, well, first of all, what would you say is the equivalent of the three-piece suit now? And what would you tell the younger generations with regards to that particular symbolic gesture of how we dress?
It's very interesting because really the suit is nothing more than cloth. And behind the meaning of the speech, we are all suited to a mission in our life. And there is power in volunteering to help others improve. And for Toastmasters, really showing that you care to someone else, there's always power in that. And that is your suit, not so much how you're dressed, but how you communicate that to someone. And in this particular case, dealing with someone who'd been out of prison and such, to walk in and treat them with importance, that's really what it's all about. So it really is about caring. Yeah, there's a saying that Teddy Roosevelt said that people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Thank you for sharing that. What would you say within the, it seems to me that we have reached, if you'll hold 1 second, the 5-minute mark. And I'm going to ask our contest chair if he can check in with the waiting room, the breakout room, and see if we're ready.
I'm waiting to hear from the Sergeant at Arms. Give me just a moment.
All righty. If you were to give a piece of advice to new Toastmasters, we have today a very large group. We have some guests and we have some new Toastmasters here. What piece of advice would you leave those newer members and guests as you said goodbye to us today, Jim?
There's a saying I use at work with my cohorts, that you have two paths you can take. You can do as little as possible to get by, or as much as possible to succeed. And so the more you invest in this program, the more likely you are to succeed, and it gives back to you in your capabilities, your credibility. So it's all about the investment and investing in other people. There's so much to it, the networking, the practice of your speaking skills, the leadership that comes through it. I would say just invest in all of it, in mentoring, in going beyond just the competent communicator steps, and really, because it's not just investment in yourself, it's investment in other people. It's just like the speech I gave. You know, this is what will make you a hero. So.
Thank you for sharing that, Jim, and we really appreciate you both speaking here today as well as your kind words. I am going to ask you now if you would turn your video off as well as your microphone, and I'm sure that you will be able to sit back and enjoy some heartfelt evaluation from our contestants. I will go ahead and go ahead. You can turn your video off, Jim. Thank you.
All right, let's do a tech check. Can you see the timer? Joe, it looks like you're on mute. That would be a good step to fix.
I should be live now.
All right, you're live. Can you see the timer?
It's Tyler? Yes, I can see Tyler's screen.
Can you see the timer, Mayor? Right now she has a white screen.
Yes, I can see Mayor, correct.
Very good.
All right, Madam Toastmaster, you may introduce the contestants.
Thank you. Contestant number 1, Joe Gallagher. Joe Gallagher.
Jim, that was a terrific speech. You really had me at the opening when you talked about a suit. I wear a suit in my daily job. I haven't had to wear one recently due to this COVID virus, but the fact that you even referenced a suit had a special place in my heart due to my daily attire. I found that your opening about teeing up that Superman had a suit was also a nice, colorful way to introduce the subject of something that can kind of be construed as dry, being a typical men's suit, a power suit. I love your content in that you talked about how a suit helped you and how it impacts others and how you use it when you dress up for special occasions. When you talked about the opportunity to meet and volunteer for a program to get wayward youth back on track, folks that had wandered and had not graduated from college or high school, I found that to be a very noble cause, and I really enjoyed the content of that topic. I would have liked to hear more on the description of your mentee, on kind of what that individual's background had been and how he ended up where he did. Again, it was positive and it was good. I would have liked to hear more on that place of how he arrived. When you described that setting, which I thought was, you used again colorful language in using the analogy of Dr. Phil show and how that first visit happened when he came in and he was downtrodden, looked down at his feet, didn't say much. Again, I like that description of that experience. And it would have been nice to perhaps hear more of the reaction at that time. But you did come around and mention at the end when you said, what do you think about my suit? And he popped up and he said, well, I have a shirt. And I thought that was a nice way to tie it in and recognize that situation. With respect to your delivery, I loved most of how you, just about all of what you presented and how you did it. You had great energy. You spoke very clearly and articulately. It would have been nice for you to perhaps have some emphatic pauses on those moments when you were making those points. For example, when you asked the mentee, well, what do you think about my suit? And that might have been a little bit more impactful, although the way you said it worked well. And again, I thought it was a very smooth delivery. Additionally, using some of your hands was very active as well. So in closing, I think you had great content, solid delivery. It was a terrific topic, and I encourage you to continue to use this speech in your future. Thank you.
Thank you. If you will please turn your video and microphone off, Joe. Now we will request 1 minute of silence for the judges to complete their ballots. Thank you all.
Stephanie, let's do a check.
Test, test, 1, 2, 3. Can you guys all hear me?
Yes, we can. Can you see the timer?
Yes, I can.
Madam Toastmaster, you may introduce the second contestant.
Thank you, Tech Chair. Contestant number 2, Stephanie Yang. Stephanie Yang.
I feel really fortunate to be evaluating Jim's speech about fashion, something that I think that I know a lot about. I'm going to break my evaluation down into what I heard and what I saw. Starting with his opening, fantastic. He name dropped superheroes that all of us have heard about: Superman, Iron Man, but this is where it got really clever. And I don't know if Joe intentionally did this or not, but by using body language, putting on his suit jacket from one arm to the other, he actually conjured up a third household name, Mr. Rogers. And immediately I leaned in and I was absolutely interested. I thought that one area in which Jim could have improved in these challenging complexities of giving a Zoom speech is when he was role-playing Tom, and the first time he was meeting Tom and using a lot of gesticulations about how Tom received him from crossed arms. Jim's body language actually got cut off in the most critical times because we couldn't see what he was mimicking. And this was just several instances. It wasn't all, but for the most part, as we continue to give and deliver speeches on Zoom, it's important to remember that there's this invisible frame sort of up above our head that we've got to keep on relentlessly practicing as we deliver these speeches. Here's something I really loved about Jim's speech. Quote, "I never got the memo. You have to have a sordid background to care." What a beautiful sentence. If that was all I ever heard, I would have thought I know exactly what Jim's speech is about. I also thought it was really clever how he transitioned back to his second point, because he actually answered in my own mind. He had two stories that he was going to tie into about why it's important to dress up. And when I thought he was going to close before giving his second point, he beat me to the punch and said, and actually transitioned and said, my second example is right here and right now. How clever. If there's one area in which I want to give Jim an actionable takeaway he can apply today going forth, it's this. He's obviously a sophisticated speaker. And I'm here to tell him this is how he makes his speech from good to great. I'd like to see him add more vocal variety. He has a style and speaking slower cadence that I personally like compared to a fast speaker, but it's a double-edged sword because for some people, it might appear as if he's too slow of a talker. So what I would like Jim to work on is adding more vocal variety, specifically pregnant pauses. It adds a little more drama and it doesn't change too much of the content, but just the style. Overall, Jim, from one fashionista to another, I will always remember your speech. Well done.
Thank you. Stephanie, if you can turn your video and microphone off. And once again, to everyone, please give us 1 minute of silence for the judges to complete their ballots. Thank you.
Dennis, could we do a quick check, please? Dennis?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. We can see you. Can you see the timer?
Yes, I can. There we go.
Excellent. Madam Toastmaster, you may introduce contestant number 3.
Thank you. Contestant number 3, Dennis Chase. Dennis Chase.
One of the best jobs I ever had was when I was a tutor to math-anxious students. Some of them said to me, "You're the first person who ever said I wasn't stupid about math," which was a powerful and moving statement. Jim's speech was also very powerful and moving to me as well. And today in my analysis, I'm going to talk about the things that I thought were great about the speech that we can all emulate, a few relatively minor recommendations if Jim gives the speech again that you might want to listen to, and then I'm going to end with what I liked best about the speech. First, the parts that I thought were strong and the positive parts. Starting with the introduction, I thought it was a good creative introduction, talking about the different ways that people present themselves. It also brought the audience into the speech, so I thought it was quite powerful in that way. The speech was organized. I appreciated the preview that we were going to get 2 points, and we'll come back to that in just a second. I thought the description of the mentoring was very powerful. Of course, it resonated with me as well. And I want to thank Jim for persevering even when the situation seemed really difficult. I thought one of the strongest points was the great audience connection. Jim had terrific eye contact. He had good gestures. The body usage was really good. When he talked about the person slumping into the chair and not making eye contact, I thought that description of how he saw the other person's body was really a powerful and important part of the speech. The content was there too, and that Jim brought in the theme over and over again, reminding us how the suit is part of how he appears to people. My recommendations are pretty small because I thought it was an excellent speech. But the first one has to do with vocal variety. Jim, in some parts, talked about really emotional things. At one point, he even said, "I was very excited, but I wanted to hear that excitement more. I wanted the vocal variety level to be ratcheted up a little bit." And I know that's difficult. I sometimes struggle with that myself. The other thing I want you to be careful of is there was a mirror behind you. And when giving a speech on video, sometimes people can walk by in the mirror or it can reflect light. So if you give this speech again on video, I would suggest taking that mirror down to have better control over your circumstances. What I liked best about the speech was the use of humor, which was consistent throughout. And that's important when you're dealing with a difficult emotional topic like helping somebody reach their goals and their achievements. So I thought that the humor was used really well. In summary, keep the audience connection, keep the great content in the speech, keep us in that great rate of speed. We can follow you really well. Think about ramping up the vocal variety and taking a little bit more control over the physical aspects. I think it's a true calling when we are called on to help others achieve their goals, their dreams, and their objectives. So I want to thank Jim not only for this speech, but for persevering and being able to help someone else along their way in life.
Thank you, Dennis. If you will turn off your microphone and video camera. And once again, a reminder for everyone to keep 1 minute of silence for the judges to complete their ballots.
Hello, Cindy. Can we do a tech check with you?
Hello, Tyler.
I can hear you. I can see you. Can you see the timer?
I can see the timer.
Excellent. Madam Toastmaster, you may introduce contestant number 4.
Thank you. Contestant number 4, Cindy Mata Stewart. Cindy Mata Stewart.
I didn't grow up around many people who wore suits. Unlike Jim, when I think of somebody in a suit, I don't necessarily think of superheroes first. I actually get a mild suspicion. So when I saw Jim walk up and introduce his speech, I was trying to see underneath his suit to see if he was hiding something, some gimmick. But it turns out the only thing that Jim was hiding was his heart on his sleeve. Fellow Toastmasters, today I would like to tell you about 2 things that I really enjoyed from Jim's speech, as well as one thing that I think he could add or support his speech with to make it even better. The first thing that I really enjoyed about his speech had to do with the utter lack of gimmicks. Jim's story was plain and simple. He would tell us part of his journey. For example, that he mentored high-risk youth. But then he would hit us with why he was telling us that specific part of the story in a very elegant way. He's helping these high-risk youth so they would get a high school diploma so that they could go to college. But here's the kicker, that they would have a meaningful college career. These types of phrases that really put the story together with the meaning are something that impresses me about a speaker, and I enjoyed about Jim's speech. The second thing that I very much enjoyed about Jim's speech had to do with his ability to have us relate. I started by saying that I cannot too much relate with people who wear suits, but I can very much relate with those ideas and feelings of self-doubt. So when Jim painted this picture for us, saying his friends told him, "You are too old. This is a waste of your time and theirs as well. You don't have to come from a certain," he told us, "you don't have to come from a certain background in order to care." This is where I think it was also his strong suit. He gave us a plot twist saying the reason that he was wearing a suit today was because we are important people, and he wanted to impress us as well, and I enjoyed that. But this is where I would like to give Jim my suggestion. I always like to think that I'm very important, but I would have liked to hear one story from you that said why Toastmasters is important to you, so that I would have fully believed why I'm important to be here as part of your journey as well. Thank you very much, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Cindy. You may now turn off your microphone and video camera. And once again, that reminder to keep 1 minute of silence for the judges to complete their ballots. Thank you.
Hello, Janet. Can we do a tech check, please?
Yes,
We can hear you and see you. Can you see the timer?
I can see the timer.
Excellent. Madam Toastmaster, you may introduce contestant number 5.
Thank you. Contestant number 5, Janet Sun. Janet Sun.
Thank you, Jim, for your wonderful speech about the suit. It was charming, endearing, and your story about how wearing a suit leads to better outcomes and improving other people led to a better outcome for me, as it reminded me of why I'm here at Toastmasters with others who help me improve myself. Your demeanor and presence, like your story, was ample. You gave gestures that were full and they had the right speed so I could see them, I could perceive them. They had the right contrast of you putting on a suit. It's just like putting on makeup. Your 2 situations that you talked about was also a very nice surprise. I did follow along and look for your second situation to come about. So when your story turned to the topic of Toastmasters, I found it even more enjoyable because you kept me interested and waiting. So such interest and wait made your point come across even more effectively and clearly. There were many wonderful things about your speech. However, I felt that one of the opportunities was about your encounter with Tom. You gave such wonderful details about being so uncomfortable sitting across from this man who's picking scabs off his arm onto a table, that when you stood up and he said, "Oh man, I wish I wore a long sleeve shirt," I wish that you had developed that story more, gave me more details, just like you were able to give with him picking his scabs off his arm, about how you took him through 2 graduations, and perhaps have delved into how the belief in someone else helping you and giving feedback could change one's beliefs about themselves. That was a message that I felt that you were leading up to. And I felt like it was an opportunity that would have made the story even fuller and more exciting. All in all, I thoroughly enjoyed this speech. Your charm and your presence came through fully to me, even in this electronic setting of Zoom. So thank you again. Thank you, Toastmasters, for that wonderful opportunity.
Thank you, Janet. You may now turn off your microphone and your video camera. And now we will take 1 minute of silence for the judges to complete their ballots for this last speaker. You may go ahead and turn off your video as well. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Timer. We will ask everyone to still remain silent until the judges have completed tallying their ballots and the counters have left the room with the ballots. Judges, you have been previously been given instructions for how to submit your ballots. If you have any questions, please privately contact the Chief Judge, Dimitri Feldman. And if the tech chair will please confirm once the Chief Judge has all the ballots before we proceed.
Dimitri, please give me a verbal confirmation or message me when ballots have been received.
Will do. Votes have been collected.
Someone's microphone is
We have a
on.
few live mics.
Will you please make sure that your microphones are off? Thank you.
This is Chief Judge. The ballots have been collected. All ballots have been collected.
Contestants, evaluation contestants, you may turn your videos on and unmute.
It seems we are still missing a few. Let me see.
I think.
All right. I believe we have everyone back. Congratulations all for your participation today. We have a few questions for you to give the audience an opportunity to get to know you better. We just listened to you give thoughtful evaluations, and now we would like to learn a little bit more about you and the clubs that have groomed such thoughtful evaluators. I am going to start in the order in which you appeared, and that means I'm going to start with you, Joe Gallagher. Will you please tell us what club or clubs you belong to, which club you're representing today, and how long have you been a Toastmaster? Go ahead.
It's a great opportunity to be here tonight. I'm flattered, and good luck to all the contestants. So I am a part of United We Speak. So I'm proudly representing that club. I've been a member of United We Speak for about 2.5 years. And it's been a joy. I participate as much as I can, not as much as I like. And the members have been so supportive and encouraging and inspiring. I feel very fortunate to be here tonight and proudly representing that club. Thank you.
Well, thank you for sharing that. And now let me go to Stephanie Yang. Stephanie, which club are you representing tonight? Which club or clubs do you belong to, if you belong to more than one? And how long have you been a Toastmaster?
I proudly represent Sierra Speakers. Thank you everyone who is in my club watching me tonight. And that's the only club I'm in. And I have been a member now for, I think, just over 6 months. But in total, I have been active in Toastmasters for probably on and off 20 years.
Wow, we will get back to that in a little while. Now let me invite Dennis Chase to share with us which club or clubs he belongs to and how long you've been a Toastmaster.
Tonight, I'm here representing Rainbow Toastmasters in D5. I'm also a member of Genentech Toastmasters. I've been a member of other clubs over the years. It's about 8.5 years that I've been in Toastmasters all told.
Wow. Once you try one club, you cannot, it's like getting potato chips, right?
And they're all slightly different.
Right. Just like potato chips. Now we're gonna go to Cindy Mata Stewart. Cindy, what club or clubs do you belong to and how long have you been a Toastmaster?
I am from Spanish Bilingual, San Francisco Toastmasters Club. I am excited to be here. I've been with my club for 1.5 years, and it's been the most fantastic experience. Not only the public speaking, but the feeling and of support and the sense of community are the type of thing that is like potato chips. Just keep coming back.
Addictive. And contestant number 5, Janet Sun. Janet, which club or clubs do you belong to and how long have you been a Toastmaster?
Hi there, I'm in DoorDash Toastmasters. A shout out to all my club members who are here watching and competing. I'm so excited to be in the club. We are just 5 months old. We're a very new club. I couldn't be happier with Toastmasters. I've learned so much in a short time. And I just can't wait to go on more of this journey with all my favorite people.
Congratulations for being a part of a club that just chartered and also taking this step to basically step out of your comfort zone right away. And I am going to now go in reverse order with some follow-up questions, starting with you, Janet. What would you say so far has been the greatest lesson or experience you've had since you've become a member of DoorDash Toastmasters Club?
It's really hard to narrow it down to just one great experience. You know, so many magical things. I think one of something truly inspiring, the contestant who's here with me, Christina, I watched her first speech and you'll have a really great treat to see her contestant speech. And they're just so different. They're so different and it's so exciting. And it's incredible to see one person come out with all these different facets. You know, at the same time, I think something I take that's benefited me a lot from other people are the evaluations. You know, both the chance to give evaluations and when other people evaluate me, that's helped me improve, just like our speech talked about. So a couple of great experiences.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Now I'm going to move back to Cindy. And I was going to ask you about something you said that you love that I'm getting back into, which is long distance running. Do you want to talk about that a little bit more? And how would you say that compares to Toastmasters or your Toastmasters experience, if there are any similarities?
Maybe the biggest similarity is that I always thought if I had more time, I would do more running and give more speeches. But now that I have more time, I don't do either as much as I wish I could. So that's the biggest way in which they're similar right now. But I love both equally. Sometimes it can be hard to tear yourself away, from those work meetings, from that project, from that potential other happy hour to come to a meeting and improve yourself and be there as a support for other individuals who are there to improve themselves. But time and time again, when you actually show up, it's amazing and you're so grateful you did it. So with Toastmasters, like with running, even though sometimes the get-go could be tough, once you're there and doing it, it's just the absolute best experience.
Yay, I agree. Thank you for sharing that. And Dennis, I know that you love baking and you already told us you love Toastmasters. Have those two things ever merged in your life in a seamless way?
I actually did back when we had humorous speeches as part of the speech contest. I did a humorous speech about being considered for the Great American Baking Show. And one of the best parts for the speech for me is I had pictures of some of the bakes that I had practiced. And as I went through them, I threw the pictures up in the air. So by the time I got done, there was paper all over the place. That's a big leap for me because I'm a rather introverted, neat, organized person. So for me to be throwing papers all around the place was a lot of fun. I probably talk about baking in my table topics as well, but the chance to really talk about what goes into trying out for a reality show and it being about baking was a lot of fun. And I like to think it was a good humorous speech as well.
Oh, I wish I had seen it, particularly having you throwing paper around. And Stephanie, now you mentioned you've been a Toastmaster for 20 plus years on and off. How would you say, how would you narrate your life through those 20 years? I mean, those things that have happened in your life while you were also coming in and out of Toastmasters.
I tell this to my club all the time, and I'm going to tell it to you guys here, which is you've got to put in your 10,000 hours to be an expert in anything. And so this is why we're here, right? I agree with what Cindy said, which is the hardest thing is just to show up. And in the first decade of my Toastmasters participation, I'd say that I always showed up. And then the back half, life happened, and I let it slip. And in my professional career, I am a communications consultant. So, oh my God, I better be good, right? I better actually be able to eat my own dog food. And I found that I was slipping. I found that words weren't coming to me as easily and I was starting to unravel. So that's when I said, I need to actually practice what I preach. And that's when I joined Toastmasters, and it feels so good to be home again.
That is awesome. Welcome back. And Joe, you mentioned in your profile music and 4 children. How do you balance it all? And do you ever use your children as audience?
You know, we will play games around the table occasionally, but the house has never seemed so small now that we're in this COVID existence. They're all back home. No, they're a blessing. And yeah, we love music, and we're all getting a lot of together time these days. But just to go back, I thought I'd share, because one of the common questions was, what did you get out? What have we gotten out of this, or what's a lesson? And I would say, as you can see by this gray hair, by me only joining 2 years ago, you can always, an old dog can still learn new tricks, and it's never too late. And I was actually humbled because somebody in my club who ended up joining after I recently joined, and he shared with me, he said, "Hey, Joe, I saw you do a table topic or something, and I inspired him." And I actually draw, that was gratifying for me to hear, but I draw so much from the people in our club, especially those that have the guts or the fortitude where English is a second language, and they're getting up and trying and speaking and just putting themselves out there. And that's where I draw, not just my own self-improvement, but I get a lot of inspiration for that. So it really has been a fabulous experience and a great organization. So, and I'm humbled to be among such great professionals as I saw tonight. You guys are all phenomenal. So well done.
Thank you for sharing that. Now, it seems like we still have a little bit of time, so I am going to start this order once again. We're going to do another round. And since we're still talking to you, Joe, you said that it's difficult to teach an old dog new tricks. What is the one trick that you've learned that you would like to share, like in 30 seconds or so, with the rest of the audience here today? What have you learned in those 2 years?
Just do it. You know, don't wait. Don't try to be a perfectionist. Just get out there, put yourself out there. And the more you do it, the better it gets. I heard it earlier, you know, there's no substitute for the hard hours and the work, but just got to show up. And we all know that, right? But it's just hard to get out of it sometimes. So that's what I'd say. Just do it.
Very good. Thank you. Now, Stephanie, you talked about the 10,000 hours. So you brought it up. Now I'd like to follow up on that particular comment. What would you say is the best way to really leverage the 10,000 hours that you would spend on learning a new skill? What would be a smart way of doing it?
The number one advice that comes to mind is to step into the fear that keeps you up at night. And so for me, impromptu speaking is probably the most challenging, where you have to go off script. And so if that is the case, I signed up for an speech evaluation contest. And in the previous Toastmaster clubs, I signed up for table topics contest. So I think if you do the thing that scares you the most, number one, you'll feel so alive after doing it. I guarantee you, most of us will not die from it. But number two, we keep practicing and practicing, right? And then we actually, the one thing that drives the most fear in us, actually we get stronger at. So that's my number one advice.
Thank you. How about you? I know you have been really a strong mentor to us. What would you say to someone who's just starting as well?
I'm sorry, you were cutting in. Oh, sorry. Is that to me?
Known you to be a strong mentor to many. What would be a quick advice, piece of advice that you give someone else? A new member.
I say this in a lot of different circumstances. It's important to listen. When you listen, especially to good speakers, you pick up good habits. You can also try and avoid the mistakes that they're making, and listen to your mentor as well, because your mentor has been through the program and knows some of the pitfalls that other people fall into. So listening in both of those instances, I think, can make a new member's experience much more rewarding.
Thank you. I'm going to get ready for these questions. What would you suggest?
Oh,
There we go.
was that Cindy?
What would be your quick
could
tip?
you repeat who it was for in the question, please?
What would be your quick tip?
Quick tip. Continue to be amazed by people. People have fantastic stories to tell. So just be open, because you will be surprised by the awesome things people have to share with you.
Thank you. And Janet, as a new member, you bring a new perspective. What would be your advice to someone who's coming along?
Someone's coming along. I think most often you think that there's nothing you can bring to the table in the beginning. There's so many great speakers. You know, what could I possibly do that's going to be impressive? And yet, after listening to a lot of speeches, after going to different club meetings, I found it's really authenticity. It's when somebody's humanity comes through and it really touches me. That's when, you know, somebody has me, they draw me in. So I would say it's not all those fancy tricks. It's you know, being able to project yourself and connect with other people.
Thank you. Well, thank you all. I've just been told that we are ready to move forward. I am going to, first of all, congratulate you once again for taking the step. for really getting out of your comfort zone, and for leaving us with something, with your thoughtful evaluations. You can go ahead and turn your video cameras and your microphones off so that we can continue with the next section of the contest, and we'll be seeing you all later. Thank you.
Thank you.
And now we have heard that the chief judge and ballot counters are all said and done. And we'll take the opportunity now to go ahead and take, are we still on track, Mr. Contest Chair, to have a 10-minute break?
Yes, we're good to go. Thank you.
Very good. It's 7:22 on my clock, so we'll be back at 7:32. And as everyone returns, if you can please remember to turn off your microphones and your video camera unless you are speaking. Thank you very much. All right, everyone. This is our 1-minute reminder. Sit back, get your popcorn. Do have your pens ready so you can write the order, the speaking order, and we'll start in 1 minute.
Welcome back, everyone. I would like to reintroduce our Sergeant at Arms, Aubrey Carrier.
Thank you very much, Tyler, and welcome back, everyone. A few quick reminders before the second portion of our contest. This event is still not being recorded. Please do not record any speeches without prior permission of the contest chair. Please ensure that your microphone is muted at all times and video turned off, except during specific times noted by the Toastmaster or the tech chair. Please give your full attention to the contestants out of respect for their efforts tonight. And if you have a speaking role, please make sure to silence any device in your vicinity that might make a noise to avoid interruptions. With that, please welcome our incomparable contest Toastmaster, Noemi Gonzalez.
Thank you, Aubrey, and distant elbow shake. Welcome back. And thank you for joining us for the second half of the program, the Toastmasters International Speech Contest. As you know, our meetings are meant to be supportive, inspiring, and entertaining. Most importantly, though, we like to have fun. And to that end, we sometimes assign a member a special role known as the Joke Master. This evening, for the International Speech Contest, we are going to use that role to basically be the warm-up number or the opening act. I am going to invite distinguished Toastmaster 3 times over, Jim Ferrer, with the joke, the effects, Jim Ferrer. Welcome, Jim.
Can you hear
Jim,
me?
can we do a tech check?
Can you hear?
We can hear you. Can you see the timer?
Okay, I'm ready.
I'm
You
sorry,
ready,
am I
Tyler?
supposed to, am I
Are you
supposed to
ready,
time?
Tyler?
Sorry, what's the time?
3 minutes.
3 minutes? 2 to 3 minutes? Okay.
All right. Good evening to all of you. Are you having fun? I wish I can see all of you. At this time, I will be your joke master. And as such, I will share with you a couple of jokes concerning my experience with Toastmaster. I joined Toastmaster 12 years ago, and my objective was to become a better speaker. I went through all the presentations because I was scared. At that time, I was very shy. And the last thing I'd like to do was make a speech. So my goal was to go through all the speech presentation, and I went to all the courses and finally got my distinguished Toastmaster after 3 years. So I came home and I told my wife, love, I finally got my distinguished Toastmaster. I was hoping she'd be so happy. But she looked at me and said, you remind me of our 8-year-old niece. I said, what do you mean? You are so talkative now. I wish you stopped talking. Listen up. So I guess this is what you get for being a Toastmaster. You become so talkative. So now I like to speak and speak. That's one of the things that you learn from becoming a Toastmaster. The second one that I'd like to share with you, I visit clients that are owners of nursing homes. And at that time, prior to my training with Toastmaster, I would put the agenda in my head. But after Toastmaster training, I would have the ready-made agenda, really with all the time slot. And I tried this on one of them. And of course, being a former Sergeant of Arms, I was on time. I went there on time. And I made the presentation and likewise finished it on time. After the presentation, I was hoping he would say, all right, Jim, I'll talk to you about that. Maybe next week, as he normally tells me. But I was surprised. He looked at me and said, I said, do you have any questions? He says, no. And I was surprised. He started to give me an evaluation. He said, Jim, I like the way you did the presentation. Very logical, very persuasive. But I think it would be more awesome if you had more Q&A. I said, really? Well, thank you for that. Finally, I asked him, did you by chance join Toastmasters before? And he said, well, it's actually more than that. I used to be the president of the club for 3 years. I said, no wonder you're so good in that. So these are the things that I cannot forget with Toastmasters. The first one, of course, when I came back from home and my wife said, being a very shy person to being a talkative person, that's a big shift. For all of you who are training, this will make you one if you go to the Toastmaster training. And secondly, the one about my client who gave me an evaluation. I didn't think he was a Toastmaster before. But this time, I have limited time. I would like to return the podium to our Madame Toastmaster, Naomi. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Now, is everyone warmed up? And Jim, you can go ahead and turn off your video and your microphone, please. And if everyone is warmed up already, you can scream yes in the comfort of your home. Just don't turn on your microphones. Not until later. So welcome everyone to the International Speech Contest, where you will hear original speeches from each of the contestants. This is the only contest where once you win at the district level, you will have the opportunity to pass to the semifinal space of the World Championship of Public Speaking. That's right, the World Championship of Public Speaking. Start getting used to these kinds of signs. And this year, that particular World Championship of Public Speaking will be held or is scheduled to be held in Paris. Also start getting used to this particular image. We don't know yet if you'll actually see it live or if it will be on some virtual background somewhere, but that's where the champion will be crowned in Paris. Now, I am going to go ahead and talk about what the rules are for the International Speech Contest. Well, not the rules, but what we'll be doing this evening. We will, first of all, welcome everyone. And we will talk about what an original speech is, which is basically 25% of, at least shouldn't have more than 25% of the speech be some quoted material. But the other thing that we need to know about this is that after I announce each of the contestants, I will ask everyone to hold 1 minute of silence for each of the contestants, for the judges to tally the ballots. And then we will be calling the next contestant. The contestants have already agreed on what the speaking area is, which is in front of the computer from the waist up and all the way up to their head. And to eliminate any perception of bias, I will introduce each contestant in the same way. And it will be contestant number, name, speech title, and name. And prior to each contestant starting, the timers will also start, and the tech chair will make sure that we do a tech check before they start to make sure that we have visual and audio. And I am now going to give you the contestant order. Again, have your pens ready. Contestant number 1, Fernando Martinez. Contestant number 1, Fernando Martinez. Contestant number 2, Steve Atkins. Contestant number 2, Steve Atkins. Contestant number 3, Anindita Venezia. I'm sorry, Chakraborty. Contestant number 3, Anindita Chakraborty. Contestant number 4, Christina Venezia. Contestant number 4, Christina Venezia. Contestant number 5, Nicole Medina. Contestant number 5, Nicole Medina. I am now going to invite our Chief Judge, Dimitri Philman, to talk about the rules of the contest for the International Speech Contest. Dimitri?
Yes, thank you, Noemi. 1 second. So it has been confirmed that all contestants are eligible to compete. The subject for the international speech is selected by the contestant. All speeches are to be substantially original. Only quoted materials must be any quoted materials must be identified as such during the speech presentation. Contestants are permitted to remain in the room for the duration of the contest. Contestants will set up any props or visual aids they need in 1 minute of silence before their introduction. Upon being introduced, the contestants will proceed immediately to the speaking position. The time of the international speech contest, the international speech is 5 to 7 minutes with 30 seconds grace period. Any speaker speaking less than 4 minutes, 30 seconds or more than 7 minutes, 30 seconds will be disqualified. The timing signals are visible from your computer and will be activated as follow. Tech chair, please show the timer's video feed so the contestants can see them. Green will go at 5 minutes, yellow at 6 minutes, and red at 7 minutes. Each signal will appear until the next signal. The red signal will be displayed until the contestant finishes speaking. No notice will be given if a contestant speaks past the grace period. Timing will begin with contestants' first definite verbal or non-verbal communication with the audience. This usually be the first word uttered by the contestant and would include any other communication such as sound effects, gestures, anything. In the event of technical failure of the signal or timing equipment, the speaker is allowed 30 seconds extra overtime before being disqualified. Prior to announcing results, the chair will announce if time disqualifications occurred, but we will not announce the name of the contestants involved in time disqualification. Judges have been instructed not to consider time in their ranking of the contestants. There are 7 highly experienced judges here and a secret tiebreaker judge known only to me. Once the results have been announced, all decisions are final. The judges, timers, and ballot counters have all been briefed and are qualified to fulfill their roles. Back to you, Noemi.
Thank you, Dimitri. Very good. It is now time to begin the contest. Is the first contestant ready for the tech check? Fernando, your microphone is muted.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Can you see the timer?
I can see the timer.
Very good. Contestant number 1, Fernando Martinez, the silent enemy. The silent enemy, Fernando Martinez.
Think of someone who you truly, deeply love. Now, if someone tried to separate the two of you, what would you do? Fellow Toastmasters, Madam Toastmaster, it was my little brother's 5th birthday. I was 10 at the time. My parents had organized a beautiful birthday party. The theme of the party was the 101 Dalmatians because my little brother loved that movie so much that I'm pretty sure he made me watch it at least 101 times. I was playing with my little brother when all of a sudden he pushes me aside and goes, "Oh." My parents were coming in with a huge covered basket. My little brother runs and removes the blanket, and inside the basket I see an adorable Dalmatian puppy. There was something that immediately caught my eye about this puppy. One of her black spots was right underneath her eye and in the shape of a tear, which was ironic because this was such a happy puppy. She was jumping all around, wiggling her tail. My little brother and I fell in love with this puppy. We named her Kachi, And Kachi would make us the happiest kids, but only for the next 3 years. After 3 years, my dad walks up to me and says, "Son, I need to tell you something, but I need you to sit down." What's going on, Dad? "Son, Kachi has grown too much, and look at this apartment. It's too small. We can't keep her. We have found a great family outside the city, and they will be very happy to take care of her." A few days later, we drive Kachi to her new home. And while we're meeting her new family, Kachi is outside playing in this gigantic, spectacular garden. When we're ready to head back home, we cross the street, we get in the car. Kachi realizes that we're leaving, and so she runs to try to get in the car. I was the one who had to quickly close the door on my puppy's face. Even today, I can still picture her confused face looking at me with the tear underneath her eye as I closed that door. You can imagine how painful this can be on a 13-year-old kid. But as we drove back home, the feeling of pain slowly started morphing into a feeling of regret, knowing that I was losing someone who I truly, deeply loved. And yet I did absolutely nothing about it. Nothing. At that time, I made a promise to myself. I promised that for those that I love, I will always fight, because doing nothing is not an option. For those that I love, I will always fight, and I will never, ever give up. A promise that I kept for 20 years, but that I recently broke. You see, my little brother and I were so close that we would sleep in the same bedroom every night just so that we can talk for hours and hours. You know that person we all have? That person whose happiness goes way in front of your own. That person for whom, without any hesitation, you would do anything. Well, for me, my little brother is that person. But a few years ago, we both had to leave our home country, Venezuela. He now lives in Madrid, and I live in San Francisco. It is a 9-hour time difference. It is a 9-hour flight. It is a $900 ticket. So little by little, we talk less and less. Little by little, we have less and less in common. The reason why I broke my promise after 20 years is because we have been facing a silent enemy that I wasn't even aware that is there. The silent enemy has manifested itself in the form of distance, in the form of being busy, in the form of so many distractions that prevent us from connecting with the ones we love. The silent enemy has been silently making my little brother and I strangers. And every day that goes by and I do nothing to fight and defeat the silent enemy, it's like I'm slowly closing the door on my little brother's face, just like I did on my puppy. Fellow Toastmasters, be aware of the silent enemy, especially in a time like this one, when we have to fight twice as hard. So let's commit right here, right now. For those that we love, we will always fight, because doing nothing is not an option. For those we love, we will always fight, and we will never, ever close that door. Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Fernando. You may go ahead and turn off your video camera and microphone now. And I'll ask everyone to continue to do what you've been doing so wonderfully this evening, and that is keep 1 minute of silence. Keep your video cameras and microphones off for the judges to complete their ballots. Is contestant number 2 ready?
I am.
Very good. Can you see the timer?
I can.
Very well. Let me proceed. Contestant number 2, Steve Atkins. Life is beautiful. Life is beautiful, Steve Atkins.
Please, if you will, try to remember back to when you were a child. Because when we were a child, we were naive enough to believe that somehow things years ago. Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmaster, 10 years ago, on the morning of June 23rd, 2010, I got a frantic phone call from my sister up in Seattle telling me that my mom, a healthy, active, 71 years old, had just had a stroke in my parents' home and was being rushed to a hospital by ambulance. And I will never forget that day. The ominous phone call and how it spun my world around and put me months. And I just talked to my mom the day before on the telephone. But now suddenly my mom is going to be taken away from us. My 4 siblings, my dad, all her grandkids. Now, if we just stop and go back in time just 5 weeks earlier in what seemed like a lifetime before my mom's massive stroke, I had filmed and produced a documentary movie about how my parents met. I just screened it for a huge crowd at their 50th wedding anniversary dinner party. And it was part drama and lots of comedy. Lots of comedy because my mom really went after what she wanted. My mom, Betty, then she looked him up in the company phone directory and just cold called him. Hello, is this Dick Atkins? You don't know me, but my name is Betty and I work in reservations and I wonder if you could give me a ride home. My mom was very proactive, and the rest is history, or rather her story. Oh, Mom, we had a family joke. My mom did 50 years for stalking, and she loved every minute of it, even though I'm pretty sure they didn't have laws against stalking back then. Dick and Betty, the perfect characters and the perfect names in a real-life romantic comedy set in 1957. But at the time, I had no idea that my most important audience for my film wouldn't even get to see it for 5 more years. You see, our son Alex was conceived right around the time that my mom died. It was about 6 months after her stroke. And then an extremely aggressive lymphoma ultimately took my mom's life. And just when you think life is dark, life is ugly, life is deadly, life is beautiful again. Because we emerged on the other side to a bright, happy sunshine with a brand new baby. Literally a new life for me and my wife. But I remember how I really missed my mom that day. So now, every 6 months or so, Alex will ask me about his grandma Betty. And always in the most shocking way, because kids have absolutely no compunction about asking these brash questions like, how did your mommy die again, Daddy? And it always stuns me just a little to hear them just ask these blunt questions. But then you have to admire their brazen openness as they just push headlong into whatever off-color topic strikes them. Because to them, a person's life is a complete book, and they're curious about it all. Birth, life struggles, death. Nothing is taboo. We should really be more like kids. Maybe after this pandemic, we can speak more. We can be more candid with each other, and we can learn more about each other by asking brash questions like we did when we were kids. So anyway, I explained it all to him again for the 100th time. And then he asked to watch the movie again for the 30th or 40th or 50th time so we can go see my mom again. Frozen in time back in November 2009. We go to the TV in a living room and we pull up the video of his grandma and grandpa talking about how they met. Now, obviously, Alex has never met his our living room, talking with them in the flesh. They listen and they laugh, but unlike me, they don't get sad every time it's over. When I'm jerked back to reality and the fact that my mom is only on the screen. But sometimes at bedtime, Alex will ask me more brash questions, as he wants to do. Daddy, when am I going to die? But I just hug him and I tell him, hey, sunshine, you're going to live a long, happy life, and you won't die for a long, long time. Are you going to die, Daddy? Yes, I'm going to die too, but not for a long, long time. And then he looks very serious and said, I want to die before you die, Daddy, and Mommy too. So I'm not sad when you die. And it choked me up, and I wanted to tell him, no, sunshine, you'll never die. And Mommy and Daddy will never die, and your brother, Nico, will never die. We'll always be here with you. Because I wanted it to be true. And because I knew he'd believe me, because life is beautiful. And because when you're young, we're naive enough to believe that somehow things will never change. Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Steve. You can go ahead and turn off your microphone and video camera now. Once again, please, let's remain silent for 1 minute to allow the judges to complete their ballots. Very well. That 1 minute is up. Is contestant number 3 ready? Can you see the timer?
Yes, I can see the timer. Can
Very
you guys
good.
hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you well. Thank you. Contestant number 3, Anindita Chakraborty. Anindita Chakraborty, love in the time of cholera. Oops, corona. Love in the time of cholera. Oops, corona. Anindita Chakraborty.
Oh, you guys must be thinking, what am I doing? Well, there's this really cute guy that I met in one of the dating apps. His name is Adam. He has a cute button nose and beautiful blue eyes. And oh, look, he drives a chopper. Oh, that's great. Amazing. That's exactly what I'm looking for. And what exactly, hold on. He wants an ethical polygamous relationship. When did life become and love become so difficult, guys? I just can't believe it. Even during the times of Corona, where everyone is stuck at home, I still can't find love. Fellow contestants, Toastmasters, and Madam Toastmaster, today, let me take you a journey on me trying to find love in times of cholera, oops, Corona. I was always a romantic while growing up. I believed love, expression, beauty, all of this that started from nature can be transcended very easily to people and can be felt so deeply. As a child growing up in the eastern parts of India, literature formed a very important part of my life. Very early on, I was introduced to the words of very famous authors in the eastern part of India, such as Rabindranath Tagore, one of the Nobel laureates, who taught me the language of love. And in its essence, what love really is connecting to the deepest part of yourself and understanding another person so wholly that you become one with them. Thus was the idea of love as I grew up. And I always wanted to experience love with so much passion. You know, where your heart breaks into 1,000 pieces, which is why when my parents gave me a birthday gift on my 11th birthday, seems a little bit inappropriate now that I think about it, but I received the novel of Gabriel Garcia Marquez, Love in Times of Cholera, on my 11th birthday, and I was introduced to the world of magical realism. There I was trying to understand how, even during such a time where cholera has taken over the world, Florentino and Fermina discovered true love. They were ultimately reunited even after being separated for ages. That gave me hope. Fast forward 20 years later, here I am, stuck at home in the times of Corona with nothing else to do other than work and stay safe and of course wash my hands very frequently, I must say. I thought, why not take people's advice and explore the online dating? Did you guys know that a recent survey has shown there's a 15% increase in online dating since the time this pandemic has spread? We can no longer meet in person. There is no way to interact with another person and meet them face to face. So our only option to find love is the online media. And there I was. I joined a few apps. I started scrolling, trying to find my own passionate love. Not so successful so far, I must say. I kept on meeting people who would say stuff like, skiing is the most fun thing that I ever do with my clothes on. I was like, oh God, no, not this. I want someone like the Florentinos. I want someone like Dev Das. I want someone who would love me with all of their heart. This is not what I can settle for. I was dejected. I was sad. I was unhappy. Then suddenly I received a text from my very first boyfriend from school who said, "Hey, how are you doing? Are you being safe?" That one text showed me a person with whom I interacted 20 years back still remembers me. There I was experiencing my first innocent love at school, and this person reached out to me to make sure that I'm okay. That made me realize love does exist. It just changes its forms, ebbs and flows. What starts as passion becomes acceptance. It becomes familiar love. It becomes comfortable love. So I said, "I'm doing good. How are you doing?" And there he was, chatting about his wife, his dog. And that kind of made me feel happy. Someone with whom I've interacted so far back still remembers me by. And that made me realize I don't need to find my passionate heartbreak. I would rather go for the familiar love. Does that mean I gave up on the online dating services? No, you saw me checking out Adam. Of course not. But hey, I spend a lot of time now interacting with my friends from all over the world, just making sure, checking up on them, experiencing a different kind of love, the comfortable friendship love, and checking up to make sure everyone is being safe. Hey, are you okay? That's the question I want to leave you guys with. Have you asked your loved one lately if they are okay in these times of Corona? Thank you, fellow Toastmasters. Madam Toastmasters, back to you.
Thank you. You may turn off your microphone and your camera now, Anindita. Once again, 1 minute of silence for the judges to complete their ballots. Very well, that minute of silence is up. Is contestant number 4 ready?
Yes.
Thank you. Do you see the timer?
I do.
Very well.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Thank you. Contestant number 4, Cristina Venezia. Free choice. Free choice, Cristina Venezia.
The blue group will be at the Reading Center. The yellow group will be at the Science Center. And red group gets free choice. Yes! That was my group in kindergarten, the red group. That lady was my kindergarten teacher, Mrs. Giacomini. And free choice was the best center you could get. We could do anything we wanted. Play with blocks, play dress up, play with puppets, draw on the chalkboard. But just then a bossy girl in the red group stood up. Guys, we are going to write stories over at the table. I guess group free choice isn't the same thing as individual free choice. I thought about suggesting some of my other ideas, but everyone in the red group had already started following the red group boss over to the writing center, so I followed them. And I sat in a little red metal chair, and I pulled out a bunch of paper with the big lines so that my letters would be all straight. And I thought for a while about what I wanted to write. And then it hit me. The Tale of the Dancing Hippos. Instant classic for my school memories book. I was so focused on my story that I was startled when a quick 45 minutes later, Mrs. Giacomini spoke my 3 least favorite words. Those words that every kid hates when they're having a good time. The dreadful cleanup time. The blue and yellow group started to clean up, but everyone at my table was still writing. I asked my group, shouldn't we clean up too? But the red group boss stood up. We don't have to clean up. We're free choice. I started to get worried. Of course, I didn't want to clean up, but what if we were breaking the rules? I really didn't want to be breaking the rules. Won't we get in trouble? No, we're free choice. So I tilted my head down and felt my eyes get hot and wet, and some tears made little watermarks on my hippo story. I glanced around the room and saw the other groups cleaning, and I could feel my throat getting tighter and tighter as if someone were pulling it together from the inside. And then my wet eyes met Mrs. Giacomini's brown ones. She smiled and shook her head, and then turned to the chalkboard and wrote the names of everyone in the red group, and then mine in the bad box. I felt like screaming to the evil red group boss, I hate you! You made me get my name in the stupid bad box. But I didn't. I kept my big mouth shut. I hate stupid free choice. But then something hit me. The red group has free choice, but I also had my own free choice, and I didn't want to sit at this table anymore. So I slammed my pencil into the old Campbell's soup can in the center of the shiny dark wooden table, and I slammed my little red chair under that table. It made a terrible screeching noise, but I didn't care. I was so mad. And then I ran to my cubby and I threw the hippo story into it. And then I raced to the small gray carpet where most of my classmates were sitting, waiting patiently for the next instruction. I plopped myself down next to my friend Elizabeth. She said hi, but I didn't say anything back, and instead glued my hot, teary eyes to the board where my name had been written in that strange, flowing writing my teacher called cursive. Usually it looked beautiful to me, but now it looked like a dead rat, emphasizing the ugliness of the trouble I was in. My name stayed in the dumb box all day. And at the end of the day, defeated and exhausted, I shuffled over to my cubby to get my jacket and my lunchbox and the hippo story. And as I turned to leave the classroom, I looked back one last time and was surprised to find that the entire board had been erased. When I got home, I grabbed my diary out of my nightstand and I turned to a blank page and I wrote in all caps, "Worst day ever." But it's what I wrote next that's really stuck with me. Below "worst day ever," I wrote, "Just because you have free choice doesn't mean your actions don't come without consequences." Just because you have free choice doesn't mean your actions don't come without consequences. I was 6. 26 years later, my very first diary still lives in my nightstand. And that worst day ever still reminds me, and should also remind you, that every single moment of every single day, we have a choice. It might seem like it's easy to just go along with whatever society is doing, but we can choose words and thoughts and actions and values that benefit and uplift others and ourselves. So be careful with that choice. Life's bad box is not as easily erased as a chalkboard. Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you. And now, one more time, 1 minute of silence for the judges to complete their ballots. And if everyone can please turn off their video cameras as well, except for the speaker, the next contestant.
Noemi, are we set to go?
You're set to go when the minute is up. It is not yet. Contestant number 5, will you say something so that we can check the sound?
Yes, quick mic check.
We can hear you well, thank you. Can you see the timer?
I can.
Very well. Contestant number 5, Nicole Medina, outside the box. Outside the box, Nicole Medina.
Have you ever been asked, what are you? It's a funny question to be asked, isn't it? But it's one that I've been asked so many times, I've lost count. The question comes in a variety of forms. Sometimes it's, where are you from? To answer that question, I was born in the foggy city of Daly City and have spent most of my life living in the Bay Area. But then if someone asks me, no, where are you really from? Then I know what they're really asking. I usually don't mind being asked about my extremely ambiguous racial makeup. I know that it's only human nature to want to sort people out. So I tell them, oh, well, I'm Puerto Rican and Chinese. People's responses vary. Sometimes it's, whoa, never heard of that combination before. I've also gotten, you don't look Chinese. I've also had the question, how did your parents meet? The answer is a bit of a San Francisco West Side story. My dad is Puerto Rican and grew up in the Mission District of San Francisco. My mom, she grew up in Chinatown after immigrating from China with her parents when she was 5 years old. So how did these two kids from opposite sides of the city meet? Well, they met in college when they were both working at the McDonald's on Market Street. Now that's a happy meal. I am as American as a side order of fries. I grew up helping my mom's side of the family make giant mounds of bok choy for Chinese New Year. My dad's side of the family, they like to do a little salsa while we cook up some arroz con gandules. At the same time, my sister and I's favorite after-school snack would be to heat up pizza rolls while we watch Saved by the Bell. Eventually, it came time for my sister and I to start school. My parents moved us to a nice middle-class, largely white suburb in the Bay Area. As a student, I hated standardized testing. The very first question was always, race, pick one. White, Black, Hispanic, Native American, and other. As a straight A student, I suddenly feared I would fail. The instructions clearly said to pick one box. I raised my hand and asked my teacher, teacher, what do I do? How do I fill this out? I'm Puerto Rican and Chinese. The teacher gave me a strange look. Oh, I guess you'll just have to pick one or do other. None of these felt right. It didn't feel right picking one box over the other. It felt like I was picking one side of my family or the other. And other didn't feel right at all. It didn't feel like a thing. It wasn't an identity. It wasn't a place you could belong. Eventually, I ended up picking the Hispanic bubble because my dad told me that it was my job to lift up the test scores of the Latinos. Thanks, Dad. No pressure. Eventually, years passed and I started university. It was a huge public school, and I began to meet more and more people of mixed backgrounds. Sometimes they would even say to me, "Oh yeah, you're Hapa too." Hapa? I had never heard of this term before. It turns out that Hapa was a Hawaiian term that meant half. In California, it was generally meant for someone who was half Asian. The word was originally slightly derogatory, but was being reclaimed to forge a new identity. And what was even more important is that we had our own club on campus. Being with the other mixed kids made me feel a little less strange. And I also heard more stories about other people who got really confused about how to check off those boxes as well. Eventually, I stopped going to Hapa Club. There just became a certain point where I felt like I didn't have to go to Hapa Club to feel like I could belong. Just knowing that there were other people out there like me was enough. Knowing that we had a name was enough. I didn't even have to use the word Hapa if I didn't want to. I could stop trying to figure out which half I was and just be whole. I also realized that I had spent years looking for a singular identity, a single box, that if I could check that off, I would have it all figured out. But I am more than a single box. A single box cannot contain me and all the stories that compose of me. The same is true for each and every single one of us here today. We cannot know a person by a single box describing their race, their gender identity, their sexual orientation, where they grew up, or where they're from. None of us fit into a single neat category. We are all these things at once and more. Each one of us is the sum of a million moments and experiences that define who we are. The only way to understand one another is to look outside these boxes and to listen to each other's stories. This is something that I carry with me today in San Francisco. When I'm in the sunset buying pineapple buns, I am Chinese, Puerto Rican, mixed, American, and just someone who wants a really good pastry. When I am in the Mission District buying plantains, I am part of the Latino community, the Asian community, the greater story of the Bay Area and the American melting pot, and just me. So, what am I? I am someone who has a story to tell and is here to tell it. Thank you.
Thank you. You may turn off the microphone and video camera now. And once again, we will have 1 minute of silence for the judges to finish their scoring of this contestant. Very well, the 1 minute is up, but I am going to ask everyone to remain silent until the judges have finished tallying their ballots completely. And I'm going to ask the tech chair to please let me know when all the ballots have been collected and the judges, the chief judge and the ballot counters have left the room.
Will do.
This is the chief judge. We have collected all the ballots.
Thank you, Dimitri. Now I'm going to,
Contestants.
yes.
Sorry, Noemi. Contestants, you can turn your videos and microphones on, please.
Welcome back. I am missing one person. Oh, there he is. Welcome back. Congratulations all for your participation today. I am going to start with what I'm sure you're already familiar with, and that is the traditional question at contest. Which club or clubs do you belong to? And how long have you been a Toastmaster? I'm going to start with our contestant number 1, Fernando Martinez.
Hi, Noemi. Thank you. So my home club and I am representing today Spanish bilingual. Woo! Very supportive club is my home club, and I know that 50% of the people in this meeting are probably from the Spanish bilingual club. But like you said, it's like chips. You cannot get enough, and I've been joining other clubs. So Tech Masters, Golden Gate, and Everybody Speaks. And Toastmasters has becoming a part of my life.
Thank you. And how long have you been a Toastmaster?
For a year and a half. A year and a half.
Congratulations. And now I'm going to move on to Steve. Steve, how many clubs do you belong to? And what is or are their names? And how long have you been a Toastmaster?
I belong to Sierra Speakers Toastmasters. Let's see, I joined in 2000, so 20 years.
I am in awe. I want to be a 20-year Toastmaster one of these days. Thank you. And now contestant number 3, Annie Chakraborty. Annie, You're muted, by the way. What club or clubs do you belong to, and how long have you been a Toastmaster?
Thanks for that question, Naomi. I'm a part of the Uber San Francisco Club. And I have been a Toastmasters for 1.5 years now.
We have relatively new Toastmasters here today. Congratulations to you as well. And contestant number 4, Christina Venezia. Which club or clubs do you belong to, and how long have you been a Toastmaster?
I belong to the DoorDash Club. Shout out to everyone who's watching, and thank you so much for watching. They're all on. And we've only been a club since November, so a little over 5 months, I guess.
Oh, congratulations. Again, as I mentioned earlier, to take the step this early in your journey as a Toastmaster. Thank you for doing that, and congratulations. And now, Nicole Medina. Which club or clubs do you belong to, and how long have you been a Toastmaster?
I'm a member, now that my speech is over, I'm all tongue-tied. I'm a member of Rainbow Toastmasters, and I've been a member for about 2 years now.
2 years, wow. Very good. We do have a fresh crop of Toastmasters competing here this evening. And let's see, I went through your contestant's profile and I found some very interesting bits of information there that I'd like to follow up on. I thought it was really curious, and this is a lot about you, I think, Fernando, that in yours, you just wrote, in interest and hobbies, you wrote programming, one word. Please expand on that and why a hobby or interest?
I thought I had deleted that, but I graduated as an engineer, but I haven't practiced it in my career, even though I work with a lot of engineers. But I love how it's an exercise that I do, and it forces you to think very thoroughly, and the logic has to be impeccable, right? And so that's one of the things that I like. And the other thing is you have a challenge. You don't know if you're gonna make it. You do it, and then you refresh, and immediately you made it. And so it's that constant satisfaction of achieving things that you didn't know is what I really like.
I think that you really captured it. Thank you. I was really curious about that. And Steve, you wrote something that I thought was really interesting that I may just do for one of my pathways levels. You wrote that you completed your competent communicator manual in 10 consecutive days. Your second, not the first one, the second one. Can you expand a little bit more on that? How did you do that, and what was the motivation? And you're muted. Steve, you're muted. Still muted. We cannot hear you. Oh,
You still can't?
now we can.
Okay. The motivation was, let's see, this was 2016, I think. And we had a lot of new members in our club. Our club had always been very strong. We'd always got presidents select distinguished, presidents distinguished, distinguished, select distinguished, presidents distinguished, one of those. Mm-hmm. And it was the middle of April, and I looked at our DCP points, and we had so many new members, so we hadn't gotten up, even enough numbers to get 6 or 7 DCP points. And so I said, what if I have 3 months? What if I do another CC manual in 3 months? And I stood up and I told everybody in the club, I'll give a speech at every meeting or every other meeting for the next 12 weeks or so. And then I was like, I didn't get a huge reception for it. And I went home like, they don't want to see me up there giving a speech every single week. So I thought, well, why don't I give speeches at different clubs? Maybe I'll give 2 speeches at my club and visit all these other clubs. And then I thought, wow, what if I gave a speech at 10 different clubs? That would be cool. And then I thought, what if I gave a speech at 10 different clubs in 10 different days? And then, so it was just like kind of a lark. Yeah, sure, it'd be fun. But the most stressful thing about it was actually getting on the schedule at 10 different clubs on the days and times that I needed them. Because usually you can call up a club and ask if you can be a guest speaker and they'll say, oh yeah, sure, not this week, but next week. And for me, I need to do it within these 10 days. So it's got to be this date. So it was, the scheduling was very difficult. I think after you reach your DTM, you have a certain amount of confidence that you feel like you can write out an outline, take what you know, and go up and give that speech with minimal preparation. Mm-hmm. And that's what I did for those 10 days, except for the 6th speech, which is a research topic. So while I was doing my speeches every day,
You broke up a little bit. I think we got the answer, but thank you very much. And I want to hear more about that too. Thank you, Steve. Now I am going to ask Anandita. Annie, I thought it was really interesting and I could totally relate to the reading a certain book at a very early age. Where did you go from there? What did you read next? Do you remember?
Yes, I do. So my parents often discovered me when I pretended to study, to actually have a storybook below my study book. I always used to hide those while trying to pretend and study. So they gave up after a while. They knew that stories and reading literature is going to be a big part of my life. So they kept on gifting me books, and the deal was, hey, you study at a certain time and then you read your books at a different time. So yeah, the next set of books that I received was Eric Siegel, The Doctors. I really loved that book. Oh my God, that's one of my favorites as well.
That's very smart of your parents to make you really want it, right?
Oh yes, they made me work for it. They really knew. Like, at least it was a good hobby, thankfully.
For sharing that story. And Christina, I was listening to your speech and you took me back to that age with your story as well. What was in your diary for that following week? I am really curious. Maybe that would be another speech coming up.
Maybe. I don't know actually what was after that. My diary was kind of a weird combination of like very literal things that happened in my life and then this strange like old soul kind of weird observations that I made about life in general. So this was just a funny one. And it actually turned into, before it was a speech, when I was in 6th grade, I wrote an essay, one of my very first like typewritten essays about this same story. So it's kind of been a moment that's stuck with me.
Well, thank you for sharing that. And thank you for sharing that particular day in your childhood. And Nicole, I want to go to something that caught my eye in your profile. Well, there are 2 things. One of them is stand-up paddleboarding. I want to hear more about that. But before you wrap up or your particular answer, I also want to hear beer and cookies together. Go ahead.
Sure, why not? And so I listed all my hobbies as making beer and cooking cookies, because both of those things are just delicious. And I have actually made, since my husband and I actually brew our own beer, I have made cookies with what's called the spent grain. So when you brew beer, you take a bag of grain and you're boiling it. And afterwards you have what's called spent grain. And so I've made some fudgy chocolate brownies that are also incorporate the spent grain, and they're really good.
That sounds delicious.
And then my other hobby is stand-up paddleboarding. So in the Bay Area, we're really lucky. There's lots of gorgeous places where you can do stand-up paddleboarding, like Sausalito and Half Moon Bay. And so I love it. It's so fun being out on the water and seeing all the seals right there, right next to you.
Oh. Now I'm going to start with you and work my way back while we're still waiting for us to hear back about the ballot counting. So I'm going to give you a follow-up to that question. Do you need any special skills to be able to, or what would be a special skill that would be good for you to have before you start stand-up paddleboarding?
I definitely think balance is a good skill to have. Otherwise, you're going right in the water. So, generally having good balance, like for example, I tried to teach my sister how to stand up paddleboard. Her balance isn't so good. Like she's also not very good at snowboarding. And so this, wasn't exactly the sport for her, but hey, as long as you don't mind getting wet, that's no problem.
Very good. Christina, have you kept in touch with anyone from that time in your life and with that particular teacher?
No, not that particular teacher. I think the oldest friend that I do keep in touch with is watching. She might have logged off now, but she is here. We met in second grade, so that's about as far back as I keep in touch with certain friends. But thank you, Melissa, for being here.
Oh, that's awesome. It will be interesting to have her give you her feedback, both as a spectator within a Toastmasters event, but also about your speech. It's always awesome to hear from your loved ones. Thank you for sharing that. And Annie, let's see, I wrote, what would you say, what would you recommend an 11-year-old niece or an 11-year-old girl to read at this time? What would be, if they haven't had a chance to move past illustrated books or, still children literature, what would be your introduction to them, to this literature like Gabriel Garcia Marquez or Siegel?
Definitely not Gabriel Garcia Marquez, unless they have been introduced to some other form of literary geniuses before. I had a pact with my parents to read Nobel laureates, so that's a different thing. But definitely, I would like them to be introduced to the world of magic. So Harry Potter seems like a good place to get started with. It's a very good combination of, moving away, like having still that world of magic and also good literature, I think, personally. So that would be a very good place. And I gifted my niece the entire set of Harry Potter that entire set, like from 1 to 6, 7 actually, when she turned 11.
Oh, that's awesome. Let me add myself to your Christmas list. Steve, part of your speech has to do with having tough conversations with children. And now that some of us are, well, not myself personally, but I'm sure many of our Toastmasters in the audience probably have young ones at home during this shelter in place, what would be your advice about having some deep conversations with them? What would you say would be a good way to start?
Just ask a lot of questions. You probably hear this a lot from people like, oh, don't talk to kids like they're little kids. Just talk to them like you would anybody else. And it's not a cliche, because they have an amazing, incredible sense of recall and things to say and things that they're thinking about that you would never fathom. And like when I talked about my son Alex, he will, like every 6 months or so, he'll bring this up. He saw the movie, I told him about it, I told him about his grandma and everything, and just out of the blue, like, hey, can we see the movie with grandma and grandpa again? And he'll ask these questions, and you can ask kids questions about things that you would ask an adult, and they have an opinion about it, and they're thinking about it. And it's just, it'll crack you up sometimes with their answers and the things that they think about. It's just really amazing.
Truly is. Thank you for sharing that. And back to Fernando. Would you like to share an update on how your brother is doing and what kind of novel ways you may have found to communicate with him now that we are kind of locked in place?
Yeah, so it's been interesting because Madrid is one of the places that has been most affected by the COVID. And so there is no way for any of us, like not even my parents, to go there and visit him. So we had planned some trips. My parents were going in April to Madrid, and I was trying to see a way to go maybe in July, but yeah, that's not going to happen. But we do have more time to chat and communicate via Zoom. But yeah, it's a challenge, right? Like the time difference just makes it difficult.
Yeah, I can totally understand that. Sometimes even if we don't have it, distance can totally be a challenge. Very well. The timing couldn't have been perfect. Thank you all for cooperating. You may not have known this, but you were helping us keep the audience entertained while our ballot counters were working really hard to get us our results. Thank you all. Congratulations again for participating, for bringing your heart into this competition and bringing yourselves so fully. I am going to now invite our contest chair. So I'm going to ask you for now to turn your videos and microphones off. I think they're going to ask you to turn them on soon, but for now, we'll give the stage to our contest chair, Adalberto Padilla. Welcome back, Adalberto.
Thank you, Noemi, and congratulations to all contestants. You did a fantastic job. I'm very, very proud of all of you. It seems, well, it doesn't seem, you obviously prepared and you deliver an amazing speech and evaluations as well. So again, congratulations. And I want to take this opportunity to thank everybody, especially our functionaries. All these or this event, this contest wouldn't be possible without our functionaries. And I want to say big thanks for our Toastmaster, Noemi, our chief judge, Dimitri, tech chair, Tyler Brown, he did an amazing job, our timers, ballot counters, again, everybody for making this event happen. And let me remind you that today's evaluation and international speech contest winners will progress to the District 4 contest. The contest will take place on the morning of May 30th via Zoom. If a division contest winner is unable to participate in the next contest level, the highest placed available contestant will advance. Now, please let me welcome back our Division D Director, Joe Bressler, who will present the awards. Thank you.
Thank you, Adele. Thank you so much for all the kind words for everybody. And I want to thank all the functionaries also, and all the contestants. As I mentioned before, I'm Joe Bressler, and I wanted to just take a moment to pause, because I can recall just about 4 or 5 weeks ago, we came together at the district level as district leaders, and this was before the shelter-in-place order happened. And we really debated whether or not we should have the contest go forward at all. It was my firm belief that we could make it happen and that we should make it happen. And I will tell you that I'm extremely pleased just to see all the participation today. We had over 100 people pre-register for the event. Just a fantastic participation from everybody today. And this really proved that we could make it happen. We all came back together as Toastmasters, even online, even after being sheltered in place for several weeks, and provided everybody with a very entertaining and fantastic and uplifting experience here tonight. So for that, I want to thank everybody and give everybody congratulations for making this happen, all coming together as Toastmasters. It's my pleasure now to provide you with the final results of the contests. I have the prizes here. These are the trophies. There's 3 of them. They're actually different sizes. They're over here on my table. And we will start in reverse order. For the evaluation contest, for 3rd place, I'd like to congratulate Cindy Mata. So Cindy, thank you. That will be waiting for you. Once we get out of the shelter-in-place order, then we'll be able to provide everybody with their trophies. For the evaluation contest, 2nd place winner, I'd like to congratulate Dennis Chase. Dennis, congratulations, wonderful job. As for everybody, everybody did a wonderful job. That will be your trophy when we get out of the shelter in place order here and we're able to come together in person once again. Okay, for first place, that's the trophy, evaluation contest. I'd like to congratulate Stephanie Yang. So Stephanie, job well done. As with all the contestants, thank you so much. And that trophy will be waiting for you. So with that, I'd like to congratulate all of you guys. Thank you so much. We're gonna now go to international and talk about the international results. It was very heartwarming to hear all the stories and to hear all of our contestants open up and share so many aspects of their life with us tonight. I feel like I became much closer to each one of the speakers, learned their stories, learned more about them. And in particular, I always love hearing the interviews. So I really appreciate it. For Fernando, also, we have people in Spain that we're having a shout out to, still waiting for them to make sure that they get through everything safely and come back to health. So I feel your concern there. But let's go ahead and get to the international results now. For third place, we have Christina Venezia. So Christina, this trophy will be waiting for you. Thank you and congratulations. Fernando, you're our second place winner. Congratulations, Fernando, for the second place winner in international in Division D. Our first place winner tonight for international competition, and you'll be going on to the district level next, is Nicole Medina. So Nicole, thank you so much once again. As with all the contestants, job well done. This trophy will be waiting for you. Once we get out of the shelter in place order, we will get that over to you. And I hope by that point, we can all come together for an in-person celebration like we always do. All right, with that, I'm going to close the meeting. But before we do that, I'd love to see everybody come back on the screen if you can. And let's actually just give a round of applause and open up your cameras, open up your sound, and let's go for it. Hey, great to see everybody. So great to see everybody. Thanks so much for coming together. I really hope you guys have enjoyed the evening tonight. Thanks once again to all the people who've made this happen. Thank you, Alberto, for all of your help with this. You've done it without you. Really appreciate it. And with that, then we're going to close. We will have an after party when we're able to get out of the shelter in place order. Thank you so much, everybody. Don't forget about the district conference on May 30th. That will also be online. Thanks, guys. And goodbye to our folks on YouTube. First time with getting this streaming as well. Thanks once again, everybody. Have a great night.